Sean Dustin spent time in federal and state prison for drug trafficking and fraud. Upon release in 2006, he had nothing but the clothes on his back, a bag of mail, and legal paperwork. In 2010, he kicked a long-time methamphetamine habit and started the long climb back up the ladder of life. This is the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast. If you want transparency and authenticity, you're in the right place. This is the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast, and this is Sean Dustin.
This is the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast, and I'm your host, Sean Dustin. Today, I'm here talking to Rhiannon, and Rhiannon was a guest on my, which one was it, 4? Yeah, it was episode 4. God, it seems like forever ago. How have you been?
I've been okay. I'm on day 5 out of 5 of work, so that's been really fun being essential. We lost 6 people, either voluntarily taking leave or being laid off or getting fired or quitting. So we're down to bare minimum. We're running a vet hospital with, everybody on fumes. So that's been really fun. I love my job, but this crisis has definitely put a huge strain on everybody. We're all trying not to get at each other's throats while we're dealing with what we deal with on a daily basis. I mean, it's a very emotional job to begin with, and then you throw all this into it, and it becomes an ultimate disaster. But we're hanging in there.
Well, that's good. Yeah, it is a weird time, but that's really one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you, because I mean, 1, to check in with you, since the last time we talked, and 2, how are you dealing, especially with mental health issues, whatever you're struggling with at the present time, but in this time, and I kind of wanted to know, and some of our listeners wanted to know as well. As you know, shout out to Scat Boyd out in Australia. I talked to her earlier today. So yeah, and people like that, that are out there listening, and they're looking for guidance too. They're just just regular people trying to get through whatever issues that they're going through. So how are you dealing with it? Like any outlets?
I feel like it's pretty up and down for me, honestly. I have chronic pain, I think probably associated with depression, anxiety. Like I was saying on my last, episode with you, that the physical reaction to long-term mental illness, there has to be some kind of correlation between the two. I firmly believe that for myself personally. But I've been okay. I usually get massages regularly, go to the chiropractor and do things to treat myself to kind of lift my spirits or show myself some self-care. But because I haven't been able to do any of those things because they're closed, I feel like between the pain and the kind of up and down in my brain, it's been harder than usual. I mean, I've been through worse, but it hasn't been fun for me. I definitely, because we're not through it yet, I don't know if I have like a really consolidated idea of how I truly feel about all this. It's very multi-leveled for me because I despise the government already, and I feel like this was a huge power play. And on top of that, I feel the weight of the world as it is, and this makes me really sad that this is like the level of control that they have over us now. So on a very deep-rooted level, this really does affect me. But I've just been sleeping a lot, and unfortunately, I've been drinking a lot, which I try not to do. But I have noticed definitely the tension has risen, the pain levels have risen, the depression has definitely set in. I'm very unsure of everything. I don't know if I'm going to have a job tomorrow. So I know that there's people having different experiences with this where, they're either non-essential and they're freaking out about money, or they're essential and they're working down to the bone. So nobody's having fun. And I know there's a feud between people. Well, you're essential. You should feel lucky you have a job. And I said, yes, I do. I do feel happy about that. But also I'm very tired. I'm working 9 to 10 hour days on my feet. We're nonstop, where I barely get a lunch break because I have to take care of all these people's animals. It seems like we're more busy than we've ever been because I think people are home more, maybe noticing more things with their pets. So less people, more tension, you get the idea. So it's not fun for anybody. So I really hope that while we're still doing all of this, that people try not to fight with each other about, essential versus non-essential. And, you're saying about your ego, I totally get that. I felt like my career was attacked, when I was unsure whether I was going to have a job or not, because I work for a vet that owns the business. So I get that, and that's my career, and I link all of my self-esteem to my job. So, if I feel like if I lost my job and I wasn't sure when I was going to get it back over something I cannot control, I'd be pretty upset too. So I see both sides.
Yeah, I was just joking around. That's, because
it hurts though. It hurts.
Yeah, I'm my ego, it's not as big as it used to be, but there was a point in time when that was, yeah. Anyways, it is a rough.
Yeah,
it is a rough situation for everybody right now. One of the things though that I've been noticing, and I've been talking to a lot of different people, this has actually been really good for me and for the show, because I've been able to actually focus on it. I took a little bit of a break, took another break, did some, I wasn't consistent with it just because of my work and the things that I was doing. And now I'm able to talk to all these people in all kinds of different areas, sectors of industries. And, I hope that one of the good things that comes out of this, and I do understand your disdain for the government. I'm not a big fan either.
Nope.
But I think that if we take this time, at least the people that can or are being forced to take the time to reflect and actually do some good for yourselves in this time, I hope that we'll come out of it okay. The power plays, the bailouts, and all of the stuff that's kind of unfolding in front of us. Okay. That they're not hiding. It's very blatant and very obvious for the people that aren't plugged into the matrix. We see that. We see what's happening. And I just, I really want to believe that this was brought about to fix some of the problems, because it's a tough, it's not going to be easy. All right. Because there's way more people that are blind to what's happening than there are that are actually awake to what's going on in front of them. Okay.
Yeah.
And it may not happen this time around. Okay. Before this next election, if they don't push the election off because of this, which that's going to be a whole nother can of worms. But what the good thing is that everybody's kind of aware of what's going on. People see, you look at what happened with the DNC and how, Tulsi Gabbard, really the only person that was talking about real change for this country, right? With the regime change wars and calling out the military industrial complex and the congressional, corporate conglomerate that controls sort of everything in our government. And they blacked her out. She was still in the race.
Of course, I'm
Yeah, she was still in the race, and nobody even talked about her. The media didn't say anything about her. It was just Biden and whatever the hell his name is, Bernie Sanders. So I mean, yeah, and that's pretty blatant. And then the things with the Feinstein and the senators that dumped all of their stock in the corporations that are going to suffer the most. So they dumped all that stock and started putting all their stuff into like Zoom and gig economy companies and everything else that was going to boom because of the deal, which is insider trading, which they're legally allowed to do, which is crazy.
Yeah, Martha Stewart got arrested for that. So I just, it's a do as I say, not as I do. We can only do it. We're the elite. We control you. You're cattle. You're here for our benefit. Have fun with that. It's sad. It really is. And
well, they write the rules. They write the rules and the laws to benefit themselves and to kind of shackle the rest of us. If you know what I mean, totally. and it's obvious. We a lot of us know that, and I think that it's not going to change in this election cycle. But I guarantee you, because it's too late to make a movement. I mean, even the Bernie movement and all of that other stuff, that's even come to light that they're all a part of the same team. It's almost like, so it's like, if you look at it like this, so let's just say when I went to jail, right, and I was fighting my case, I really thought that the public defender was there to defend me, right?
No.
No. And then come to find out that, well, these guys work in the DA and the public defender work in the same damn office. They get paid from the same damn people. So they're in their office wheeling and dealing. Okay, well, I'll give you this guy if you give me this guy. And I caught him. I literally caught him in a lie. So I had no choice but to get a paid lawyer because they were trying to send me away for a long time. And and this is no different. All right, they're two heads of the same snake. So
the same reptilian as.
Yeah, the what do they call them? The Anunnaki or the
the reptilian or overlords.
So
I don't know.
I know about all that stuff. Trust me.
Yeah, we could go into that for sure. Yeah, you're speaking my language right now, and it sounds crazy to other people, and it sounds like, well, it's just conspiracy and paranoia. It's not. I have been deemed the rational one in the workplace and in life. I mean, no matter how much mental illness I have, like I am of sound mind, and these things make sense to me. And if people want to think I'm crazy, that's totally fine. Like, I don't care. But when they come us down, you'll see, and we'll see about who was right. Yeah, so we'll just wait. We'll see. And then whoever's right is right, whatever. I mean, I have no problem being wrong, but
yeah, I
mean, if you can't being cool, then you're contributing to those things. Like, there's nothing. I mean, it's hard to feel like you can really do anything. I mean, you can protect yourself on an individual basis. You can get that massage. You can take that shower. You can go get your nails done. You can go for that run. Whatever, whatever you do to make yourself happy or healthy, and those things are important to consider when you're trying to protect yourself from, brainwashing and mind control and poisonous water, poisonous air, poisonous food, poisonous media, everything. You can protect yourself from that.
Yeah, and that all comes down to what you choose to allow into your body, whether it's through your mouth, through your ears, through your eyes. All of that stuff makes a difference. The things that you watch definitely have an impact on you, but the things that you hear have way more of an impact on you than the things that you see. So yeah, being healthy in those ways are definitely contributors to sanity. if you are listening to stuff out there that is triggering you, making you, taking you to a place where you don't want to be, then you have the ability and the option and the right to not listen to it and tune out of it. I mean, that's what I've done. I've done that with mainstream news. I'll watch some local stuff for the weather, but I mean, as far as like listening to MSNBC, CNN, all of these political run propaganda machines, I don't fuck with them, man. I stay away from that.
I don't need to subject myself to being lied to.
Well, I mean, you got enough people lying to you, on a daily basis, or trying to, program you in your own day-to-day lives, and within coworkers and your own community of people that you surround yourself. It's there's enough of that goes on. You really shouldn't have to worry about the leaders of your country trying to steer you into a mass grave. That's crazy. But like I said,
mm-hmm.
I think not this cycle, but the next cycle or the cycle after that, we're going to start seeing some changes because of.
I hope so. I've seen some positive from this. There's always a duality of this third dimensional existence, and that's really what we're forced to experience, is the duality and finding the bridge between the two. So you're going to see polar opposites. You're going to see the best of the best. You're going to see the evil. You're going to see all the things in between, because that's what the human experience is for. It's why we've manifested ourselves here.
But yeah,
so I just feel like the government's kind of raping our reality from us on a metaphysical level. I mean, this is beyond consuming media and the water and the food and stuff like that. That takes care of the biological suppression, but the spiritual and metaphysical suppression that the Anunnaki, the powers that be, the global system, Satan, whatever you want to call it, it represents the same energy flow. And we all are feeling it, and we all have a different perspective on how we label that. But ultimately, we're still seeing and experiencing the same thing. And that's the negative aspect of duality.
Yeah. I'm really trying to refrain from getting into my normal mode of all of this. Because I'm really, honestly, I'm trying to take a different approach to it, because it is such a big thing, and I don't have the answers, and I don't know how to change it, and I don't know what, if anything, will. So, I mean, the only thing that I can do, which keeps me sane, is to, look at everything, look at the big picture and all of the things that are happening, and all of the people that are coming up, which we thought that there was, a bunch of that was going to happen. But, Bernie obviously is not, he's party. He's a part of the party. All right. You've got
mm-hmm.
Elizabeth Warren, who should have. So like all of the, when this bailout happened, all right, and it was just a repeat performance of 2008, 2009, 2010, right? And you had Elizabeth Warren, who was, her whole campaign was, I'm not going to allow the banks to have another bailout and this and that. That was her campaign. That's what she ran on. Because of what happened in 2008, and she was right there alongside, Ocasio-Cortez, Bernie Sanders. Well, I mean, they're still part of the progressives, right? All of them voted yes. All right, it was 96-0. There was a couple of in the chamber, like I listened to a recording of that chamber when it said all in favor say aye, nay, and there was maybe like one or two dudes that said no, and everybody else said yes. And I mean, there was also a reason why they had that voice vote. They didn't want their names on a paper ballot saying who voted for what. They didn't want the proof out there, all right? Because they knew that it's just it's two heads of the same stake. The only people that are running this country are the corporations and big pharma. All of these big corporations that contribute to these super PAC funds that keep these people in office and for re-elections and elections. They're not gonna vote themselves out. They're not that is like a cash cow for them. All right. And that's what keeps them, as soon as they're done in office, they go right down to K Street and become a lobbyist for these and make $1 million.
Well, when she says banks, it's like, it's not banks. It's not even a bank. It's the Federal Reserve, which is a privately owned institution by an elitist family that goes back as far as the Rockefellers that founded this country basically on rich white dudes. Like, I hate to say it, I'm white, but it's like, that's basically what it comes down to. And it was all founded, for the benefit of these few people. And obviously things evolve, society evolves, nature evolves, just like everything is a forward progression in an ever expanding universe. So we're going to see a huge difference from now and then. But basically the agenda, as people would call it, as conspiracy theorists, these things have been in place for a long time. And so all the technology that we think that we have now, or, we think about, well, what if we had that technology? We've had it for probably at least 50 to 100 years. The wool is being pulled over our eyes. And the people who see it are deemed crazy because that benefits the agenda. Because if too many people catch on to this, or too many people think for themselves, they lose all their power. So that's what people don't realize, but they're so easily manipulated by their environment. Whether it's the food we eat, because, in America, we're known for our fast food. So a lot of us eat like shit, a lot of us are depressed, uneducated, things like that. So there's a lot of suppression for the American people, and not everybody's given a fair opportunity to reach their full potential, because the system isn't made to work for us. We're made to work for it. And there's a lot of people that still trust the government, which they really should not. And these people are pushing for socialism because they think in their mind that the needs will be met if socialism is enacted. No, it will level the playing field, and we will all be dirt fucking poor. They will be rich as fuck, and we will all be ultimately screwed. Our needs will not be met. And socialism goes against human nature. And I'm not saying capitalism is great. I'm not saying corporatism is great. I'm not vouching for any of that. I'm just saying I think people should work for what they want. And if you don't have the ability to, great, you should be offered some opportunity for help, but not at the cost of other people that go out and break their backs, to work. I'm here with all these mental illnesses, and I'm going to work every single day, trying to live the life that I create for myself. So there has to be some personal responsibility. And I think socialism is just a kind of a cop-out for people.
Well, we already have.
If you don't want to work for something, then you're not going to get what you want. And everybody wants something different. And everybody's striving for this equality, but we're not made to be equal. Yes, we all deserve respect, but we're made to be different. The point of this existence is to experience itself in an infinite amount of ways. We're all made to have a different perspective, given a different hand of cards, so that not everything is the same, because that would just be boring and it wouldn't go with the laws of the universe. And people have a hard time with that because their ego weighs in too much.
That's a point. Yeah, I get where you're coming from with it. But I've been talking to a couple of different people, and I talked to one lady today, and we were talking about, because I brought up she was a corporate executive for the Marriott company, right, the hotel chain, and she got out of doing that, and she was doing got her own business now as a consultant and doing some other stuff, and she works with these big companies still, right? And I asked her, I said, what do you think is going to happen? We've got all this stuff that's happening, corporations now are starting to see that they can lower their bottom line by having all of their workers now, or their non-essential people that they need to have in the office. Like the people that would need to be there would be, like, of course, the IT people that keep the internet and all the connectivity running, for that company, and the vice presidents and some of these other people that are making big decisions. I said, but what about everybody else? You don't need them anymore. You don't need them to be there. So now you can shrink your space down, which will inevitably take your bottom line down. I said, what do you think about that? And she's like, I think you're very right. And some of the people I've been talking to, they're already trying to figure out how they can scale down and maximize their space, the use of space. And but another thing that's happening, though, that's on the positive side, is that some of these companies have lost their employees to that they've had to lay off, are on unemployment now, which they're the $7 an hour employees, the $8 an hour employees, $9, $10 an hour employees that are making more money now on unemployment than they were when they were working for this company. And so what they're realizing this, some of these people, these owners of these companies are realizing this, and they're like, man, how are we going to retain these people, because we need them back? And they're starting to see that, okay, well, without them, there is no us. Okay. Without the employee, we are not a company. Okay. Because we need them just as much as they need us. So it's a very symbiotic relationship. And I think that a lot of companies have gone away from that. And it's just, they've gotten away with it. So it's become routine and habit. Okay. And the people that have worked for them have let them get away with it. Okay. The union busting and all this other stuff that goes on, and like Amazon's and the big companies, corporations of the world that frown on unions. I'm a union member. I belong to a union. But do you know that to get anybody in my union to go on a strike, would never happen?
No.
Because you have these individuals that are overextended, don't know how to manage their money, and they're week to week, they're paycheck to paycheck, even though they make great money, but it's all gone by the time they get it. It's already spoken for. So those people are the ones that would keep a movement from happening, because there's no way that they would ever sacrifice their own comfort and stability for the greater good of everybody else. And there are absolutely those people.
That brings me to a fantastic point. So the government and all the mainstream media, and part of the agenda, it's a multifaceted agenda at this point, but a lot of it is keeping us divided, because if we are at odds with each other, we are less likely to unify on a grand scale. So when you're talking about the bottom line with these employees, the symbiotic relationship between the employer and the employees, it's kind of the same deal on a bigger scale with who we are to the elite. So they kind of have to keep us happy to some degree. But what I'm confused about with this coronavirus is I feel like it was a huge power play, for one. And it just seems really blatantly obvious and kind of a rash move. I feel like the government is always kind of, it's like a small strategic kind of slow progression, so that the sheeple, for lack of a better term, don't get scared and we don't get pissed off and don't scatter and they don't lose control. But I feel like this one was such a big move, but I feel like because we're all so held down by the life that we've been living already, working for wages that are less than what we deserve, getting paid more on unemployment than going and doing your job that does, whether you work at McDonald's or wherever, requires some skill. You are important. You're an important human being. They cannot do it without you. But I think a part of this coronavirus thing is that you make more people dependent on the government. So you're not going to bite the hand that feeds. They're going to look like the good guys because we're the one giving you the stimulus check. We're the one that's giving you more money on unemployment. And so that, again, is less likely to revolt. So they can make a huge power play like they did with this coronavirus. And people are like, whatever, I'll just do what they say because it's comfortable for me. Or, I don't care about the greater good. I only care about myself because for as long as I can remember, and I'm sure for most of time, we've been indoctrinated to not give a shit about each other. So yeah, I mean, it's not surprising to me that people are not going to act as the greater good. I mean, obviously that's generalizing. There are some fantastic people that will risk their lives for humanity, and we need more of those people, and we need to take those people more seriously. But those people come off as crazy because that's the way that mainstream media has posed people that actually make some sense. And so it's, I don't know if you've seen, what's that that show that everybody got kind of crazy about, the Upside Down, what was that show? I can't remember. It was the one with that little girl in it, and they had the upside down world that they were in.
Was it Black
Stranger
Mirror?
Things.
Oh, Stranger Things, yeah. I never got into that.
I didn't really either, but I watched some of it, and I kind of got the gist of it. But what I noticed about it is that it does have some social and political commentary, and kind of a metaphysical aspect where you have this world and plane of existence that you're on that's kind of a two-sided coin. And they call the upside down kind of the two-sided coin, like the evil kind of things that you cannot see, but you can feel kind of thing. It's hard to explain. You'd have to watch it. But basically the upside down is like their version of hell. And these people have to kind of transcend and kind of go back and forth between this to save their loved ones, things like that. But I feel like we're in the upside down. We're in the kind of the shitty like timeline but we're made to experience this particular timeline. And this, I don't know if you watch Arrow either.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of have a similar thing where the timelines cross over, and they're experiencing similar kind of events in their lives in kind of a different order or a different way. And him kind of going back and forth between those timelines and having to figure out how he's going to move on through those things. I don't know if that makes sense. It's kind of hard to explain that, like telling you the whole show. But what I'm trying to say is that there are, like in certain shows and certain media, that it kind of tells you exactly what's going on. But people think it's sci-fi. They think it's, oh, well, that's just, kind of an abstract concept. This is just Hollywood. This is just a show. But if you listen and you pay attention, there's a lot of things that are very similar. They're trying to explain the reality of what we're experiencing.
Yeah. So, I mean, what do you think the play is?
I've spent a lot of time thinking about this because, I have. Because for me, I have to understand things and think about things 20 million different ways to figure out what exactly is going on. And I try to take paranoia out of it, honestly. I try to think about it rationally and what I know and what I've been told and what I've experienced and what I've seen and heard, and making up my own mind while also hearing what other people have to say. I think it's for martial law. I think ultimately it's pushing for more and more control so that they can take our guns away, they can take all of our rights away, and ultimately we're just here to work and pay them. That we're just the gears of the economy, and that's the progression. So I follow a lot of stuff on Instagram about like breaking the matrix, things like that. I follow this person that she's very enlightened and she's also very sassy, and I love her very much. She's one of my favorite people to follow. And I'm
going to stop you right there. The one thing I'm following you, but why would they crash the economy if we're the wheels that turn it?
So here's the thing, the economy's not really crashed. So the fluctuations in inflation, deflation, all those fun economic fluctuations, those things are planned because they benefit certain people. So you have to understand that in the elitists, there's still a hierarchy to them. It's not just us and them. So they have their own complete and total reality that they follow, whether it's the Freemasons, whether it's the Anunnaki, whether it's the Bilderbergs, Trilateral Committee. There's different levels to it. So they have their own, we're separate entity. We're here for them. but with them, they have their pawns as well. And then the bloodlines, they try to keep them pure, which is weird because a lot of incest happens, which is just bizarre.
Okay.
But
Let's hold on. Let's stay away from that, because if you want people to pay attention to you and listen to what you're saying, once you get off into that land, you know what I mean, even though it may be something to it, that's where you get people tuning out. Because what a lot of people, how they think is that they would never do something like that, so how could anybody else do that? So let's stick to not that, because I want people to listen. I want people to pay attention, because I mean, I think that you got something here. But when you start going down the road of incest and pure bloodlines, that's going a little deep. So
yeah, it is deep, and I'm sorry. It's hard for me to not go deep, because that's where my mentality is at, and how far I feel like I've delved into this reality. So I'll digress, because I don't want to freak people out.
I hear you, and trust me, man, I hear you. One of the people that I was in prison with, and you can look this dude's name up, and you may even know who he is, was Fritz Springmeier, and he wrote the book called Bloodlines of the Illuminati.
Yeah.
And I spent probably a good 6 to 8 months walking the yard every night with this dude for at least an hour or two a night, picking his brain and listening to all of his stories and the things that he was uncovering and involved, and how the government actually put him in there because he was getting a little bit too close to something, and so they had to shut him up, and they framed him for a bank robbery. This dude's a published author. He doesn't need to rob a bank.
Yeah, that does happen a lot. I kind of lost where I'm at. I'm sorry. I know sometimes I do get into tangents, and I forget like my audience sometimes, and I know that sometimes I freak people out a little bit, because not everybody's ready to hear it, and that's okay. So I mean, I guess what I think there's not really a play. It's more just they have kept us so low for so long that we're so easily to control at this point. So all they have to do is say the word, and they can pretty much do whatever they want at this point. So we're seeing the evolution of the agenda, in a nutshell. And so, biological warfare is a very real thing. It's really easy to scare people. Fear is a great control tactic. It's really, really hard to say. There's a lot of money being moved around. I've discussed it with some people that are of like mind, that they're shifting maybe who's in charge. They're shifting money around, because I know that the stimulus package is like a big giveaway. So I know people are like, great, they're helping us, but not really, because the more that we're in war, or the more that we come up with like these stimulus packages, the more money that they can borrow against the Federal Reserve, which is the privately owned institution by the elitist kind of founding father bloodlines, which I won't go into. So it's not a bank. It's these rich people that have founded the country and have been inherited having this power for hundreds of years. So they can borrow more money. So ultimately, every question that you have for me, and every time you ask yourself, why are they doing this? The answer is always money. And if it's not money, it's power. That's the reality of it. It's just more and more control.
So with this virus, I mean, if you actually take a look at what was happening around the time that all of this came down, right? What was happening in China at that time in their population? They were having God, what was it, man? A lot of stuff was coming to light there. You had the concentration camp that they've got going on there, which is really was being talked about as a human rights violation, and a lot of people were starting to get up in arms about that. And that was starting. It was like this. It was like, it was starting to come up, and people were starting to pay attention to it. And then you had God, what else was happening in China around that time? There was some other shit that was going on down there that, a lot of protesting was happening. Actually in Wuhan, there was a bunch of protests that were going on. People were getting fed up there. So they needed in my opinion, they would have benefited because they needed a way to get people in the house and not protesting. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So that took care of that. How would we benefit from that? There's a lot of different speculation. There's the 5G thing. So I talked to somebody. Hold on. I talked to somebody that was paying attention to this, and I said, well, look at all of the different locations that are popping up, because as soon as one of those 5G towers gets installed, it'll now appear on the network, right? So he was saying, like, oh, dude, there's tons of, like, if you go and look every day, there's new ones that are popping up all over the place while everybody's in lockdown. All right. So there's that. I don't know. I mean, I believe that microwaves and millimeter waves and all of the things that, like, even around me, like, you've got this camera, the TV, the computer, the microphone, everything around us has waves and microwaves and stuff that's keeping us from if you want to go down into this area of what we really are, we're flesh antennas, really. We're meat antennas. That's what somebody said. So we're just meat antennas, because we have the ability to, when you get, so have you ever been outside of a big city? Like, have you gone to the mountains and, like, been away where there's no what is it called? Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's just nothing. You can't get cell signal. You can't get anything. You're so far away from any electrical towers or anything that has to do with stuff that's in this grid that's sort of keeping, the grid of waves and microwaves, radio waves, millimeter waves, whatever it is that's going around that's causing, that it's transmitting everywhere, is actually keeping us from transmitting how we are supposed to transmit, right? Mm-hmm. So, when you get up into those areas, you don't have communication. But why is it that, like, you can almost I had a situation happen where, I was thinking about something, quite a bit. And when you think about somebody, how sometimes they'll end up calling you.
Yeah. Okay.
That's not coincidental. That's a part of what we can do as humans, and what we're capable of. We're telepathic, but now that they've got all of this stuff around us, you know what I mean? So, like, all these waves, someone was saying that, like, there's so many waves that are going around that you can literally, if you were to put what's the word? Like, if how when you spray an aerosol and you can see the red lines that are, you know what I mean? So it would be just like that, except more dense. Like, you could just, and that's everything that's around us that's going on. And so that's what's keeping us from being able to use our power that we have to communicate with each other, because we're all energy. Everything's energy. Yep. Everything's energy. And when you get outside of this and you start thinking things, and you start, it really, you're really able to manifest when you get away from this environment down here, and you get up into the mountains where it's clear, and all this stuff doesn't take place. So where I was going,
it's like my ears ring constantly. Like, I've had tinnitus for, like, probably the last 2 years, which I've never had before, and I just feel like it's just constant ringing in my ears. And I was watching a documentary on somebody who moved out into the middle of nowhere because she felt like she was, like, sensitive to EMP waves. And I believe that. I feel like, there's a lot of people that are more sensitive to these things. So I know you're a huge fan of Joe Rogan, who's also friends with Maynard. So Bill Hicks had a quote, which I feel like completely summarizes how I'm trying to explain our existence. So it goes, "Today, a young man on acid realized that all matter is merely energy condensed to a slow vibration, that we are all one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively. There is no such thing as death. Life is only a dream, and we are the imagination of ourselves."
That's deep.
And then he goes, "Here's Tom with the weather." But so I feel like that really sums up what I'm trying to say. That's our existence kind of in a nutshell.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there is actually a lot that we have been, that a lot of our history that's been hidden from us, and been told to us. Things have been removed. It's no different. Our history is no different than what they've done with the Bible. Okay.
Hmm. Hmm.
They've removed things, they've placed things in it, they've done whatever they had to do to shape the masses, and whatever it is that they have to do. And I hate saying they, but I mean, who else is there? We don't know who they are.
It's really hard to tell. I've thought to myself, okay, so is it the Anunnaki that is trickling down to like using human representatives that are willing to take earthly money for to be their medium for control, so that the Anunnaki can kind of stay in the background so we don't freak out that there's aliens, things like that. I don't know. I don't know how deep it goes. I don't know if it's just evil human beings being completely and totally shitty that just grew up to be total egomaniacs, and they all somehow just kind of gravitated towards each other because, the law of attraction is great and strong, but I wish I knew. I wish I knew for sure. I can speculate all day, and like I said, I'm always open to new ideas, but I do have my convictions just as much as anybody else. And, I'm sure some of it does sound crazy, and I'm sure some of it is, but I feel like I have to be somewhere close or at least have an idea of what's going on. And at least I know enough that they cannot be trusted, whoever they is.
Well, anytime a man gets involved in anything, it's subject to corruption. And I mean, that's just throughout history. There's always going to be somebody that wants to be to lead the masses. There's always going to be somebody that wants to profit from other people's misery. That's just the way it is. I mean, if you go back years, hundreds, thousands of years. What was Rome? Rome was an empire. What was that empire meant to do? Expansion. Risk. Why did that? What that game? You remember that game? Risk.
Yeah.
Wow. That's not much different from what governments do, right?
It's not. It really is not.
But
people forget that.
What's that?
Oh no, go ahead.
Oh well, yeah.
I was just gonna say, people focus on, okay, well, America does this, and Iran does this, and France does this. It's all part of the same global system. They are all up each other's asses, talking to each other about how they can all work it out. Because ultimately, all the people below them, regardless of where you're from or what country you're in, but they're all in cahoots. So you have to. I mean, okay, so we're gonna have a war with China. Why?
No,
we
that's
depend
not
on
gonna
them.
happen.
They depend on us. I don't understand what the point of that would be.
No, it's that would never happen. The whole nuclear thing, nuclear war. I mean, yeah, we need those for protection just to keep other countries in line from doing the same to us. That's why the superpowers all have it. That's why Iran is trying to get it, and we don't want them to have it. Or North Korea, because those are countries that aren't willing to play with the UN or the bigger picture. They're not willing to play ball. So they want. Look at Libya. Look what happened to Libya when they got rid of all their nuclear weapons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We went right in there and toppled them. And so, I mean, I think there is a reason to have those protections. But I mean, I feel like you're right in a certain way that it is all planned. I mean, you got to think, man. These people they're the average everyday person can barely make a 1-year goal. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's a stretch. All right, let's stick to 6 months. How many people can stick to a 6-month goal and see it through?
Yeah.
Not a lot. Well, these people are playing on timelines that are 150 years. Like, it spans generations. It's not. It doesn't stop when the old man dies. All right, it keeps going, and it's been put in place. And so I mean, that's and to be able to think on those terms and those and that deep into something, most people don't have the comprehension for that. So
yeah, nobody has the willpower and passion for that. Honestly, I feel like it takes a special kind of like shitty evil person to have that much passion for world domination. It has to be some kind of fire and driving force for them to keep this up for so long and to live this lifestyle. I mean, not saying like I have sympathy for these people, but you have to consider like this has to be kind of a scary lifestyle. I mean, you fuck up one time and then they suicide you, you know, or they take all your money or they kill your whole family, or, you know, you have your fame and fortune and you live this special kind of life and then it can just all be taken away from you, you know, in an instant, because ultimately there's always going to be somebody higher up on the food chain, you know. So I feel like they all mess with each other too. And I feel like we suffer a lot of the repercussions for things that they do to either punish people within their worlds, moving money around, you know, shifting things around. And I think that we just experience kind of the backlash of those things to whatever degree.
Well, they definitely can. You know, they. I think it was Radigan. I had like if you go and listen to like 28, 29, the four like there's 4 episodes in there that kind of touch on some of this stuff. But they have all the money, so they can they can ebb and flow economies. They can crash them as they want. They can, you know what I mean, just by whatever it is that they do. You have people like Elon Musk that can say, you know, that can say one thing and, you know, the stock of his company or do one thing and his stock will, you know, went down, but then it went back up, you know, 9 more points. So, you know, Trump says something and all of a sudden the economy just, you know, takes a dip and then it comes back up. You know, all of that stuff. I mean, it for the people that know how it works, it's beneficial for them. They make money off of it. Mm-hmm. But most of us don't know how that shit works. or have the money to be able to withstand it or to even play a part of it. You know, I think a big part of what's happening with you know, this bailout, and it's very similar to 2008. And I don't know. I know for myself personally, I've had some of my my RV or my trailer, and my truck payment. I had deferred for 2 months for this, you know, so I can not have to pay that for a couple months. But I didn't realize that I'm still having to. So they put it to the end, but for those 2 months, I'm getting charged interest. You know, and so it's okay. And that wasn't disclosed. I didn't read that part, and they didn't tell that to me either. Because if they had, I probably would have said, all right, well, you know what? I might as well just pay it because it's not like I don't have the money to pay it. I just didn't. I just, you know, all right, well, let me put it off for a couple months if I can. Well, they're doing the same thing with homes, right? So if your mortgage, and not all of them are doing this, but there are a handful of these mortgage companies that are allowing you to defer for 3 months, but at the end of that 3rd month, you now owe the balance and due plus the 4th month. Mm-hmm. So if you have let's just use 2,000. So if you have a $2,000 mortgage payment, you now owe 8,000 on that 4th month.
And that whole time you haven't been making money, so I don't know how that even is a bailout. I don't even know how that was a help. So I have a mortgage. Sorry, I'm moving around a lot because my back hurts. So I have a mortgage and I read into the forbearance thing and I applied for it anyways, but I'm still making the payments because just in case for some reason, you know, I get laid off or something changes, because God only knows what's going to happen tomorrow or 5 minutes from now with all this. You know, so it does allow you to make late payments without your credit being impacted if you pay outside of the month. So that was the only reason I did that, but I'm still paying it. But I got kind of angry. I was like, what kind of shit is that? I felt like this was such an attack on the middle class. I feel like ultimately they're trying to dissolve the middle class because it's the wedge between poverty and the elite. And that's all they really want, is they want all of us poor and all of them rich, and that's it. They don't want any middle ground.
And so I felt like it was a huge attack on homeowners, and, you know, and the working class. And it made me really upset. And I tried not to cry, and I tried not to get too upset about it, because, you know the agenda, you know how it is. But there was one day after about 2 weeks into this shit, and I just blew up. I just started crying. I was like, this is just insane. This is such an attack, you know, and my career, you know, I've just finally realized what my career is and my calling. And I feel like that they're screwing all that up, and they've already taken so much from us, you know, with the taking our consciousness and our reality away from us. I said, you could at least let me have my job. You could at least let me have something. And I feel like they're just taking it all at this point over a disease that really isn't any worse than getting a cold, you know. And I'm sorry to say this, because I know people are like, well, people are dying. Yes, these people would have died with a flu. These people would have died with anything else, because, you know, and it sucks that these people are older or suppressed, but that unfortunately is their reality. But a lot of us still need to eat and feed our children, and I don't think we should all be punished for that. And so, you know, that's how I feel about it. And I'm sorry if that hurts anybody's feelings, you know, because I want people to be happy and healthy. And, you know, it sucks that we have the technology to help people who are immunosuppressed, but Big Pharma doesn't want that. They don't make any money off of that. So I definitely am right there. But the stress of all of this is really getting to the people that are really trying to, you know, hold themselves up. And, you know, and if we can make money, we can pay into these systems to help other people that can't work, you know, even if this were not happening. So we apparently have to ride this out. I feel like I'm constantly getting shafted. I don't get a tax return anymore. And then he's telling me we're gonna get this $2,400 or this $1,200, and it's just gonna put us in more debt. It's a big mess, and I'm over it. And I'm tired of wearing a mask at work, and I'm over it. I'm over having to walk back and forth 20,000 times to clients' cars, you know, because they can't come inside. It's a huge strain on my body, especially when I can't go take care of myself because everything is closed. So I'm over it. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know enough about about medicine or any of that to know, you know, whether people would be affected if it was just a regular flu or not, or if there's, you know, something that's, I just don't, I'm not knowledgeable enough on that. But what I do know is I did have a interview with a guy who's an inventor who was, who had invented a way to use blood oxygenation in conjunction with immunosuppressive therapy, mild immunosuppressants, because that's really what, you know, what's causing the fluid in the lungs for people that are actually having the respiratory issues, right? And they're having to put them on ventilators. Part of the problem is their own immune systems that's causing the fluid buildup in their lungs. So with using immunosuppressive therapy in conjunction with blood oxygenation and the ventilators themselves, it takes off some of the blood oxygenation actually takes off some of the work from the lungs, because it's the lungs are working double time trying to get oxygen, but they can't because you can't breathe. There's too much fluid in the lungs, and also carbon dioxide is not being expelled, and it's turning your blood or something inside of you toxic, right? Having too much carbon dioxide in it. And so what he'd come up with was a way to use already existing things that are in the hospital with a retrofit to what is that? Dialysis machine, a kidney dialysis machine, which there are plenty of those available, and you don't need to manufacture them. They're already there. They're already they're already in the hospitals, or, you know. And he took it to Ben Carson. He got some FaceTime with him, and they just kind of blew it off. So he's, you know, I came across him. And I said, yeah, I'll you know, do an episode with you, and you put it out there, and I'll try to shoot it around to the people that I know and share it and see what happens. And funny thing is that Dr. Oz yesterday, when I was actually listening to the end of his show, he had mentioned this very same thing. And I'm like, where'd that come from? So I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of unknowns, but there's plenty of things that we do know, and we just gotta hold fast, man. Hopefully, I mean, if we were gonna do anything, right now would be the time that we do it, because what is the one thing that people do not want to get behind a movement for or do anything is they don't want to lose their job, right? Well, right now there's 26 million Americans that have applied for unemployment and are no longer working, right? And are getting paid to just sit at home and do nothing. All right. Right now would be the time to go on a general strike and get at least two things that would help everybody. Medicare for all. All right. So universal Medicare, so we don't have to, and that'll free up some money, because if you're not paying, I know what I pay for medical for my daughter, myself, and my ex is still on my medical, but I mean it's expensive, and that would be one less cost that would go back into our pockets, I would think, right?
Well, yeah. So speaking of healthcare, I'm lucky to have private insurance, but it's Kaiser, and I have a bone to pick with them. But anyways, they have more than enough money to roll out more care for mental health, especially. I mean, we'll just focus in on that, because obviously there's a lot of other things that they can take care of. So my experience with Kaiser has been terrible. I mean, I've had to go in and damn near throw my hand on the table and be like, you need to give me an appointment so I can adjust my meds. They're like, oh, we just don't have the therapists or the manpower to facilitate the care that, that people need. And I'm like, that sounds like a personal problem. You guys are a multi-billion-dollar company.
Yeah.
Hire some therapists.
But that's just right now, right? You're talking about, you're trying to get something right now during this, or was this before?
No,
was this?
No, I'm not talking about right now. I understand that there's more pressing issues. They need to take care of the people that are affected by this, that are getting sick with it, that are potentially, dying from it. No, I'm not talking about that. This was long ago. This was well before this. I've always had a problem with them. And then when I tried to ask them for psychology therapy, talk therapy, they put me through a whole list of things. So jump through fiery hoops, just to even think about providing me that care. I mean, I'm sorry, if you're depressed and tired and, and not in a right mind, you shouldn't have to sit here and fight tooth and nail just to have somebody take a look at you and listen to you talk for 5 minutes so that they can figure out where to start you off. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, I have Kaiser too, and the things that I've experienced with him, I've had good experiences and I've had bad experiences. When I needed something taken care of, like an MRI on something that was soft tissue, and I knew that it was soft tissue, and they kept sending me back like at least 7 times to get an X-ray, and I'm like, dude, it's not the bone, it's the soft tissue. I mean, if you need to nickel and dime me for a copay, then just go 35 times 7 and I'll give it to you, because I don't want to have to keep going back and fucking forth. You know what I mean? I'll give you that money if you want it, but I mean, it's because the time that you're costing me is not worth that. The 7 copays that I'm having to pay to get the one thing done that I need. And so, they are bad about that, but they are good with some things. I mean, I know that like being able to, I've had my doctor be able to email him and just circumvent that whole bullshit thing that you have to go through. And I've gotten a lot of help that way from some of my doctors. So, I mean, you got to take the good with the bad on that one. But I think that, if we all had universal medical care, like every other country in this world that's doing it and seems to be okay, managing, and also a UBI, a universal basic income for everybody. I think that's what we need. And I think that, if they can afford to go and drop bombs on people everywhere else and that we're paying for it, then we should at least be able to, get some of that money, and it actually it's a share. It's a share, a profit share for all the fucking money that you've been giving these corporations and bailing them out, and we get nothing out of it, and they still profit. You know what I mean? And they don't pay you back. Amazon doesn't pay you doesn't pay taxes, and they're benefiting quite a bit from this.
So I know we're about to wrap up, and I don't know if we want to go down this, but there's been some speculation in the conspiracy theory world that Bill Gates is behind this because he would make money off of a mandatory vaccine.
Well, doesn't
feel about that yet.
Well, doesn't he own the patent on the coronavirus?
Yeah, I think so.
Or something. He owns a patent on something that has to do with like some virus of some sort.
Yeah, I definitely think he has his hand in it for sure. I'm still kind of looking into that. But definitely there's some big ballers right now that are really, really profiting from this. And may not make sense to us right away, but eventually we'll see what's going on when it all kind of unravels. I think we're kind of in the middle of things right now. And I don't know why they have like a certain date for this to end. Is that when your patent goes through? Is that when the vaccine is supposed to be done? Like, I don't understand where they're getting these timelines.
Honestly, I think they're just, I don't think they know themselves. I mean, it's just, it's really unorganized. I mean, and listening to Trump, however you feel about him, that's neither here nor there. But if you just watch him on his, when he's talking to people, it really doesn't seem like he really knows what's going on. He backtracks a lot. He'll come back the very next day. He'll say something one day, come back the very next day and retract what he said, and now it's something different. It really, that's why I've just tuned out of it. I'm like, there's just what am I? I'm gonna be a lot dumber for listening to that today than I will be if I don't.
Exactly. Everything's a distraction. So they have something that they want to do, and they're gonna do it, and we're gonna somehow let them do it, and then obviously we're not gonna be benefiting from it because we never do. And we can really, this sounds kind of shitty, but I guess to some degree we can only really blame ourselves because we let them get away with this.
Yeah,
we have the power. We have the power on a metaphysical and just this normal existence that we experience. If you don't view it in any other way, we have the power in every aspect, but we choose not to act on it.
Well, I'll leave it in the physical realm. Yes, we have the power to turn over the government. We do, absolutely. And I think this would be a funny experiment, actually. So if we really do have all this power and we really can determine the outcome of an election, and if we all kind of got together and figured out, okay, well, if there was actually a true leader out there that was capable of rallying behind, that had the best interest of the country and the taxpayers in their minds, and we could elect this person. The funny thing would be, if that really happened, would they let it happen? Or
no. And I think a lot of it's fear-based at this point. They have so much technology and so many weapons, they could just level us out. So that's a huge thing too, is like there's the violence and the weaponry that come in play. And so I honestly don't know what we would do.
Well, think about it. Think about all of the people that were change makers in the past. You've got, that had people that were trying to rally for change, right? Well, think about all those people. So you got John Lennon, right? He had a lot of influence and a lot of power. A lot of people were following the Beatles, right? Gone. Mm-hmm. Okay. You have Martin Luther King. That's another one. Gone. He had a lot of people that were following him. He was, he had a movement behind him. Malcolm X is another one that had a movement behind him, which Malcolm X and Martin Luther King actually were created, or one of them was created to combat the other one. gone. Who else? Who else? Anybody that seems to.
I'm talking about people that were murdered.
Well, let's not say murdered. Let's just say expired. That were no longer here. That had a movement or had something. That
I feel like JFK definitely tried to do the right thing.
Who?
JFK.
Yeah, that's another one. He's another one.
And yeah.
So I mean, if that were to actually happen, and this person was to get traction, and may have, I mean, it would be an interesting experiment to even know, like, how that would play out. I think that person would get assassinated. I think they would be killed by in some way. They're not going to level us out. We're the cogs that move the wheel. There's no way that they're gonna level us out. Unless you're, you get popular in this arena of conspiracies and stuff like that. If you start becoming, popular enough to start moving opinions and masses, they're not going to allow that. That's for sure.
Yeah, they will definitely intervene, and it will not be pretty.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm glad our mental health episode and talk got hijacked by conspiracy.
Yeah.
So let's, but dude, I have no self-control because I was definitely going to try to not, as soon as because once we got on, we started to talk about this before we even started recording, and I'm like, okay, well, we're not going to do that. We're not going to talk about that. And
yeah, well, I have zero control over myself when it comes to these things as well. And I think we have some shared views that are very the same, similar, and different. And I like new perspectives, and I try to be fair. I try to be non-offensive, but while still sharing what I believe. Doesn't mean it's the truth. It doesn't mean any of it's real, but it's just the way I perceive things. And I hope that if there are people that agree with me, that I love to talk about conspiracies. So, have at it.
And my disclaimer is that this is just in fun and games, and this is all theory and not reality. Yeah. So I mean, if you're a listener out there and this rubbed you the wrong way, man, apologize. Sorry, not sorry. It's just, it is what it is. We all have are entitled to our opinions and how we feel things are going. And, as long as we're not hurting anybody by what we're saying and expressing, it really doesn't matter,
Well, no, and I never want to hurt anybody's feelings, and I don't want anybody to take anything that I said the wrong way. And I mean, there always will be people that will take things the wrong way, and it's never my intent to offend anybody, but I am an open book. I am very expressive in the way that I see and feel things. And so I don't expect people to agree with me. And I really, truly hope that nobody was hurt by anything that I said, because I do love everybody and I do respect people's boundaries. And I definitely don't want to trigger anybody or any of that. But conspiracy theories are my jam. I don't like the government. I love humans, and I think we can be better. And ultimately, that's all I'm really trying to say is that, we just need to protect our energy and try not to fall for the fear tactics. And I feel very bad for the people that are sick and dying from this. But, I also feel bad for the people that can't work and can't provide for their families, with this too. So we're all screwed in some way.
Yeah, I'm fortunate that I was able to be okay through this as far as financially and still able to provide for my daughter and for child support and all that other stuff that I have to pay for. There's a lot of people that aren't. So I mean, I feel fortunate, but I'm taking the opportunity that I've been given to dive into my passion, in my project, which is this podcast and doing, I'm doing all kinds of interviews right now. I mean, shit, by the time the first comes around, I'll have like 35 interviews that I've done in the last 3 weeks. It's crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really happy for you because I definitely think you do have something really going for you. And I'm really happy that I got to be a part of kind of the beginning stages. And
I know that I'm kind of one of the quirky ones. So I appreciate you having me back, and I hope that, people resonate with what I say, and hopefully maybe we can make another one about mental health. But, I definitely did enjoy this, and I definitely like to share these things because we need to open our eyes in one way or another, whether you share the same views as me or the same perspective. You just need to open your eyes.
Yeah, for sure. And if you if you have do some research. That's all it really takes. All it takes is to just, if you have a question about something, and curiosity is really what drives and moves, what moves movements. It moves people. Having that curiosity to ask more questions. Don't just be satisfied for the answer you're getting. Ask another question. You get that answer, ask another question. Okay, well then what? And then what? And then where did that happen? You know what I mean? As long as you keep that curiosity going, you're gonna end up somewhere where you're gonna know what it is you're trying to find out. And if you don't know what it is, it'll definitely probably bring you to more questions. Anything that you question that leads you to more questions, you should probably think about it a little harder.
Critical thinking.
Yeah. Do you want to? I know before you didn't want to put your contacts or social media or at least something like that out there, but you've got a fan now, so
I know. I'm really happy about that, actually. I was really stoked about that because my bubble in my life is so small anyways outside of the coronavirus. So I felt really special, and it really felt nice to reach out. Like at first I was like, okay, this is just some random person adding me. So at first I didn't initially approve it because I was like, okay, it's just some, random Facebook request. But when I figured out what it was, I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. I'm a fan. So I did like a little shout out on my page and, things like that. Cause I was really happy that that person was able to feel comfortable enough to come forward and be like, hey stranger, I totally liked what you said and let's connect. So, I love all that. So
yeah. So if you want to shoot out your if anybody is resonating with what we're talking about and wants to reach out to you on a conspiracy level, or better yet, connect on a mental health awareness level, that would be great.
I can literally talk about anything. So if I have no friends. So if you guys want to be friends, like I can literally talk to anybody about anything. So my Instagram is amethyst_ISH, and then my Facebook name is Rhiannon Steadman because that's my name. And those are like the only social media things that I do. I don't know about like the TikTok and all that. I'm too old for that.
Yeah, I don't do that either.
So probably add me, message me. I definitely, it's nice to have fans, and it's nice to feel like somebody out there listens.
Well, and they'll also be available in the show notes as well if you didn't catch that. And I appreciate you coming back on. Thanks. A shout out again to Scat Boyd, who was actually the one who's responsible for this.
Yeah, thank you.
Because she reached out to me and was like, hey, there's no contact information. How can I get a hold of her? And I was like, oh shit. So I had to do a little researching because I forgot that you didn't want people to, you didn't want to drop that information. And then after I gave it to her, I'm like, oh shit, I better hit you up and let you know that I did it.
No, for some reason I thought I had already done it on the other one. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I have no problem with sharing it. I mean, I'm just a me.
Right.
I'm not worried about, anything like that. So yeah, message me, contact me. I love, animals, cat pictures, anything. Tell me about your dog. I don't care.
Right on. Well, thank you, Rhiannon. I appreciate it. And have a good weekend.
You too. Thanks so much.
Yeah. And don't think too hard about this stuff.
Oh my God, I'm done. My brain hurts. No more.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast. Sean is a single dad, a union blue-collar guy, and he spent time in federal and state prison for drug trafficking and fraud. When he was released from prison in 2006, all he had was the clothes on his back, a bag of mail, and some paperwork. Since then, he's turned his life around and shares the struggles and successes on this podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we hope you were moved to connect to the show. Book a guest spot. For merch, Patreon, PayPal, and social media links, go to linktr.ee/nowhere to go but up. On Instagram at Nowhere to Go But Up Now. On Twitter at But Up Now. On the YouTube channel at Nowhere to Go But Up Podcast. See you next time.